Why, hello, my name is Brad Stein, and I'm God's comic. I didn't ask for that, it's just what they called me. And this is Brad Stein Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. And I know why you came on the show today. You wanted to hear an interview with the creator and originator of Gigi's Cupcakes, Gigi Butler. Well, she's here. She's going to talk about her life and how difficult it was. I know what you're thinking. How could your life be difficult, Wyatt, if you're a cupcake maker? Well, it was. So quit complaining. Wyatt, when's the last time you made a cupcake?
That's a good question. I don't make cupcakes so much as I make cakes, but then severely underestimate my ratios.
Well, you know what? I'm curious about the idea of cupcakes. In other words, what makes something a cake? Why isn't a muffin actually a cake? Why is it a cupcake? Because it's a smaller version of a cake. Why don't you just call it a cake? And if you're saying, well, it's a cupcake because it's in more of a cup, whereas a normal cake is larger, but there's no sort of parameters to that cake. What if I had a 25-foot long cake? Do I just call that a cake? Do I call it a long cake? Do I call it a huge cake? Do I call it I don't know, gigantic cake? Or do I just call it a cake? And if I do, then why do I call a cupcake instead of just a cake if it has nothing to do with the size? Wyatt, help me with this cake problem.
Okay, you went way overboard with that. I was just going to comment on why do they call it a cupcake
Yeah.
compared to a regular cake if you put them both in similar sized containers? A cupcake, has like a bowl, and you bake a cake in a cake tin, which is just a big version of that.
Yeah.
That's why I think we should call the difference should be a cupcake is basically using a mini cake tin.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess the point I was making
Uh-huh.
was that a cupcake differentiates because it's telling you it's sort of a small miniature version of what we consider a standard sized birthday cake, which I don't even know if there is a standard size. I mean, how large typically, they have a thing called a cake pan. Do you think that a cake
Cake
pan?
tin.
Yeah, or
It's a cake tin.
whatever. Wyatt,
It matters.
you and your cake specificity has always bothered me. But
I didn't not go to culinary school to be mocked for my knowledge of cakes.
I understand that, and I realize that if you're paying big money on cakeology, you don't want to be discredited.
Or in my case, not pay money for it.
Right, I believe you snuck in the back door.
Oh, no, I never went.
You never went. You
I just put my name on the registry.
Okay.
Just snuck in, snuck out, got my degree, Cakeology is an easy major to get, honestly.
The whole idea of culinary school is odd because if you think about it, cooking isn't complicated. You put fire, put pan, put in, make hot, eat.
Make hot? That's a step, huh? Make hot.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm taking the caveman version of put in oven.
Ah, yes, the Stone Age culinary school.
And they probably cooked on stones.
Probably.
So see, there you have it. Well, anyways, I guess the point I was making is, so Gigi Butler is going to be talking to us today. And she created an empire, if you want to call it that, because it was a franchise of Gigi's Cupcake. So it was a very special type of cupcake that was so good and so delicious that people for miles around. She started in Nashville, and a lot of celebrities said, "Oh, you got to go to Gigi's Cupcakes. It's the best cupcakes," and all the people. And she's got amazing stories of her working as a cleaning business first and cleaned some celebrities' homes, and one of them is a very, very, very famous celebrity that you will hear about when you stick around and listen to the interview. And then suddenly she creates this cupcake industry, and people hear about that. And now all the celebrities want her cupcakes. Anyways, everything kind of had a problem down the road, and it's a redemptive story, but it's a sad story when you hear things that started out so optimistically and successfully, and how it went sideways. And what do you think is your greatest accomplishment that suddenly the bottom fell out? It's like, oh, I thought this was going to be it, and then it ended up being that. Can you think of a time in your life where something that you thought was going to be wonderful just completely bottomed out?
Oh, Probably my third or fourth attempt at getting a college degree. I can't remember which one.
Right.
But it's one of those two.
Right. And that's frustrating to you. And now that you have finally accomplished your college degree mission,
Yep.
do you feel like it was worth it?
Of course. I've gotten my degree a few months ago, and I've used it exactly 0 times currently.
So are you trying to tell me that perhaps, and this is just me surmising or contemplating, it can't be true, but are you saying that maybe a college degree isn't all it's cracked up to be?
No, well, I mean, degrees, some degrees are better than others. A degree like what I went into is a great degree. You can get jobs in programming or game design. It's a booming business. You just gotta, find the job and not have to spend basically 24/7 running a podcast you didn't even think you'd be part of 3 years ago. But other degrees are not as useful. For instance, a gender studies degree. Not many jobs that need that. Political science degree, not a big thing. In fact, there's only one real job that you can really do with degrees like that.
Yeah?
And I think we all know what we're talking about here.
I don't. What are you talking about?
Pyramid scheme.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is a degree that people complain about the most.
Liberal arts.
No?
Advanced complaining.
No, below 32 degrees. That's what people complain
Or
about.
0 degrees Celsius.
They always-
Or centigrade if you're weird.
Right, exactly. Well, guess what, Wyatt? I have found us in the midst of this 2-week cold spree of degrees that people complain about. And it's always bothered me that people complain about the weather when the weather has nothing to do with them. It simply is or it isn't. And your job as a human who can actually observe and measure the degrees that the weather isn't aware of because it has no mind, should just simply adapt to it, which is what makes humans so specific. But I'll tell you what, just in case you listening or watching don't understand what I'm getting at, let's take it a little bit deeper into my comedic look at weather whiners. Wyatt, make it so.
Okay.
People always complaining about the weather.
Oh, it's so cold. Oh my gosh, it is so cold.
First off, why does anybody ever think they need to tell the rest of us what the weather feels like? Like only they can interpret the atmosphere.
Oh, it's so cold.
Oh, you're a weatherman. You're a weatherman. Let me tell you what cold is. You think it's cold out there? I was in Winnipeg, Canada once in January. Are you ready? 70 below. 70! And people live there. On purpose. I could understand if it was a place of exile. But they want to be there with their kids. I tried to reason with them. Hey, it's 70 below. Something's broken. I swear all the Canadians, oh, should have been here last year. It was really cold. They've adapted to 70 below as though that's normal, but it's very stupid if you ask me. I don't want to reach a point in my life where 70 below zero is considered nippy. Thank you. I don't want to live in a place where you go out to get the mail and then you die. I don't want to live in a town where everybody smokes because nobody wants to prolong their life expectancy. We got like 3-year-olds. You got cancer yet? No! I don't even have a tumor yet. 70 old people getting locked out of the house, honey. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes to really understanding and unpacking the snow fort that you created because of the degree being so cold, I don't know anybody that can do it like me. Wyatt, I don't know. Do you think people complain too much on this earth?
Why are you always up about people complaining? It's so annoying. No, of course not. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Nobody complains.
Well,
Nobody complains. Everybody's just happy all the time.
have you ever thought about the idea, though, if you really think about what it means to be human, Okay. If you think about a complaint, I mean, if you really start breaking everything down, because we go through life and we live our lives, and in some simple way, Wyatt, life really is always about kind of trying to accomplish just a handful of things.
Yep. Living is a big one.
A big one is, for example, you go to sleep at night.
Yep.
And the hope is you
Wake up.
wake up. So if you go to sleep and wake up, you accomplish something that you consider to be a positive.
Well, not everybody considers that a positive.
Right. Because they're complaining about accomplishing the very thing that they were trying to do, which is get some sleep and then wake up. Now, I know they're going to say, well, I didn't sleep as well as I'd like to or whatever. But nevertheless, they wake up. And then the first thing you do is, when you wake up, is...
Try in vain to go back to sleep.
Right. And you can't because maybe the alarm went off and you have to go to work, or maybe you have something you have to accomplish.
Or insomnia.
Or insomnia. And then you get up and you go potty.
As you all do.
That's something
Daily routine, 7
you
o'clock every day, every morning.
Have to go
You're
potty.
not sure if it's a serious medical thing, but at this point, you're too scared to ask.
You don't want to even look. You don't want to examine it. No pun intended. And so here you sit doing a natural physical thing. And the reason you go potty is because you have access to...
A bathroom.
Yeah, but I mean, what allows you, what causes,
Bladder
what
control.
constitutes, no pun intended, the ability to go potty? You have to have consumed
Water.
and
Well, I thought water was the answer.
number two.
Food.
Yes. So the other thing we all try to do every day is have food to eat and water to drink. And so you go to work, but you go to work to earn a living, to be paid money so you can go to the store to get eggs and pizza so you can make it hot so that you can eat it so you can go to sleep so you can go potty.
Yeah, pretty much.
So life is simple.
Yeah, it is. And speaking of complaints,
Yeah.
we've been doing it for a while.
Doing what?
Complaining. Do you know
Who? We? You and me? Or
humanity?
humanity in
I
general.
was using the collective you.
Okay, okay.
Do you know what the first customer complaint was? It was recorded in, I think the 3rd century by a complaint against a man known as En-Nail, who was a copper salesman
Okay.
who sold cheap copper at a premium.
Okay.
And to this day, whenever on the internet somebody finds out that there was an issue with copper, the internet collectively goes, "Darn you, En-Nail!" It's just hilarious. Most people want to be famous. In some cases, infamous is the same thing for them.
Wait.
Everybody wants to be remembered. But unfortunately, no matter what, nobody will be as remembered as basically the world's first con man,
Who was that?
En-Nail.
Ed Nair. How do you spell that?
E-A,
E-A.
first name, N-A-I,
N-A-I-R.
Yeah.
Aya? Aya?
Yeah.
Nair.
Yeah.
And is that Greek guy?
I think it was Greek. Yeah, it was Greek. So yeah,
And
No
he
matter-
sold crappy copper.
yes, and he got what is believed to be the first customer complaint because of it.
So they went to the customer service desk and said,
No. They went to the customer service desk, took out their tablet and chisel, and freaking carved into stone a complaint against this man. How much dedication do you need? How badly did this man mess up that you freaking carved your complaint in stone?
"One Wyatt." Yeah, so that the complaint would last forever.
So that future historians could go, wow, that guy
I
sucks.
want you to know how bad this
That
coppersmith
guy
was.
was the
And
worst.
can there be more irony in that story than the fact that that chisel and hammer were made of Copper!
Copper!
They chiseled with a copper chisel a complaint about the coppersmith who gave them a crappy batch of copper.
Hopefully not Nail's Copper, otherwise he wouldn't get the message finished.
That's for sure. It kind of blunted at the end. Maybe that's why his name is I, because it actually was Iad, and the thing went
half
bad,
of it
and he never
fell off,
finished
yeah.
his name. So maybe that was the point. They sort of
Just
let
out
the
of frustration, just left it like
they
that.
just let the tool tell its own story by not being able to pull it off.
Yeah.
Well, why, we're sitting here still in January. It's let me think. Yeah, this is the last Monday of January 2025. So once again, life is going forward. The year is already just blistering through. Life goes so fast, right? And this is our last guest of January 2025. And hopefully, if God willing, if he decides to allow me to survive, I'll be here next January. We can think back about all the guests we've had since then. Because think how many guests we're going to have if he lets us keep going. So if you're averaging 4 a month, then we have 11 months left. So we got 44 more guests after Gigi to ponder and to speak about. So I wanted to wonder, if as we think about this podcast, things have changed and people know that we've changed our backdrop. We tried to make it a little bit more concise. My wife, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but it's your mom. She felt like when I had everything kind of stacked and ramshackle, she didn't think that was the best representation of the backdrop.
It was the perfect representation of us, though.
Anarchy.
I was going to be disheveled, but that works too.
I love Disheveled. You know my first band was called Disheveled? But
Yeah, I know. They were a mess.
oh my goodness, they could not get their act together.
No.
That's why we disbanded. I'm killing it with these puns. I got
Hold on. Applause followed by laughter, I think, is possibly appropriate.
But I have to ask you this, and I don't.
We have to use the soundboard more often. We have to.
You don't get to anticipate what I was about to ask you.
I do. We've all been thinking it.
I want to know what caused you to suddenly use the soundboard just now.
The fact that you actually said something funny.
No, but did you finally label?
I finally remembered what the buttons do.
How many buttons are there?
8.
And each one is individually locked into that noise, or does one button have more than one?
They can be programmed with different effects, but each one is tied to only one effect.
Okay, so are those intrinsic in the machinery, or can you record your own thing? And
I said, they can all be customized.
Oh, okay.
It does come with defaults, though.
Uh-huh.
Like this one. That would be perfect for Mom's Conspiracy Corner. And then there is... That's a good one.
Perfect for a comedian.
That's also perfect for this podcast.
And my show.
I see no use for this one.
That it?
And yeah, that's everything. Well, the last one is just another basically podcast intro music thing.
What do you mean?
Oh, so you know how we have that rock intro?
Yeah.
It's another one of those, but it's different.
Do it.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the other podcasts in an alternative Brad Son Has Issues universe. This isn't an intro, it's a never ending.
Actually, it only lasts a minute.
Why? Where did that come from?
It was one of the defaults.
Oh, it's literally like a
It literally came pre-programmed with the roadcast when we bought it.
Oh, so people, it's like a public domain thing that people can
probably. I would assume it's public domain. Well, I'm not sure why it wouldn't be.
It'd have to be if they gave it to you. That means you
Exactly.
can use it.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, do you know where the original Brad Son Has Issues theme song comes from?
Some guy named Trevor, I believe, but I forget what the context was.
Well, when we first started this podcast, Wyatt, all these people were watching because it was Corona and they had nothing else to do because they were under house arrest. And they would come along and they would say, how can I help you build this podcast? And they did. Oh, did they ever. We just had Chris Hammond here visiting with us. He's one of the guys that put together the posse that literally came into this room when it was just framework and built it with, talk about labor. Oh my goodness, they had to take this entire half of my flooring was below this one over here that nobody can see. And they had to raise it up. Before they can even start the construction, they had to make the floor equal. But this guy was a master carpenter, so he did it. And then they had to run everything else and get everything prepared. And then we had to bring in the state to do the wiring. And then we had to have this very specific type of insulation that has to be a certain length and has to be facing the right. I mean, talk about bureaucracy when all you're trying to do is just make the room not freeze to death. Why, do you remember me doing podcasts when I was
You were in a jacket. I was in a jacket and a hat and gloves. It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. But look what it's become. It's an empire, son.
Yeah. It's, I wouldn't call it an empire, more like a local village square.
Okay. Well, what's wrong with that? Not everybody gets a village.
Actually, I think it's a good analogy because you're the town crier and I'm the town button pusher. Little known job back in the medieval era.
Well, I don't. Did they have buttons back in the day?
Well,
before electronics?
I pushed the king's buttons. I guess I'm a jester in that case.
Did they have? When did buttons first appear?
Oh gosh, I don't. Are you gonna really make me look up the history of buttons on a podcast?
Well,
Fine.
first off, you brought it up, and secondly, when you said a button pusher, one of the originals, it instantly occurred to me that buttons would have been a result. I think I was going to say of electronics. Like once electricity was involved, then the button had a place. But you know what? Maybe they had a button that dealt with, what is the terminology when something is mechanical? Like, is that what it's just called, mechanical? But did they have buttons like an old typewriter that used typing buttons, but they wasn't electronic? That's a mechanical typewriter, I guess they call it. I don't know. Is that what you call something that doesn't use electricity? Mechanical?
Yeah, I guess mechanical's good. I can't find anything on mechanical buttons, but I can tell you that buttons were invented in the 1830s, like the buttons on your jacket.
No.
Well, that's when they were like mechanically made.
Okay.
They were invented in 2000 BC.
C? Holy
No,
smoke.
BC.
Okay, CB. CB.
BC.
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 So buttons. Wyatt, I want you to understand the human journey. It's so difficult. I can relate to it though, because you think about this now. You existed because of me, right? You exuded from my loins. I created
A fact
you
that you cannot help
whole
yourself
cloth.
but tell people every week.
Well, listen, I haven't brought it up for quite some time. I really haven't. And
No.
but I have brought it up again because it's crucial that people understand that I made you. And your little cute, funny repartee wouldn't exist if I hadn't made you from nothing. So yeah, I say be grateful. I'd say push that button, and every time you do, say thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father.
It's a little weak, but anyways, my
You
point.
said to say it, and say it with passion.
Okay, but here's what I want you to understand. I was born in the 60s. Okay, so
18s or 19s.
your choice, your pick. But think about this, Wyatt. So when I was born, there was a cartoon.
Yeah, they
men.
often had those back then.
Yeah, they had lots of cartoons back then. No buttons, but just cartoons. And in one of the cartoons, it was funny because they had two cartoons in that era that took two realms of the spectrum of the human race. They had one that was a cartoony sitcom, animated sitcom basically, called The Flintstones. Now, you may have heard.
Oh yeah.
You know, the Flintstones. Okay. Well, the Flintstones was cavemen living as though they were normal people, but everything was cavemanish. So like their garbage disposal was just a hole in the sink, and underneath it was like a pterodactyl, and they poured in and it would just eat the food. And they had a car, but you had to just run in place with, they didn't have engines. So, interesting perspective. And so this was their version. And by the way, and I don't know if you know this or not, you probably wouldn't. I believe, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. The Flintstones was the first animated show created for adults to be shown to adults or in prime time.
Really? I've never heard that.
Yeah, that they actually were making a cartoon for adults. And that, because it was very similar to The Honeymooners, which is a 1950s sitcom using a famous actor named Jackie Gleason, and Art Carney was his sidekick who played. So Barney Rubble would have been that guy, and Fred Flintstone would have been Ralph Cramden. And again, you wouldn't know these people, but this is from the 50s, the early beginnings of television. By the way, around the same time that I Love Lucy was on, which had a young boy that could play drums named Little Ricky, who was actually played by a prodigy known as Keith Thibodeau, who we had on our podcast.
Yes, we did.
Okay, so, but on the other end of the spectrum of this life of mine that had cartoons, they had a future generation of humanity. What would the future be like? And this show was called, let's see if you know. Do you know?
Jetsons.
Yay, the Jetsons. Just to show you how myopic their vision of the future was. Their sense of what would be super futuristic was a jet. I mean,
I actually remember another thing where
yeah.
one of them was trying to make like basically a phone call, but because phones weren't really a thing back then.
Wait, are you talking about the Jetsons?
Yeah,
or the
Jetsons. Yeah, the Jetsons. So what it was just basically a voice activated typewriter, like a telegram. Like instead of period, they said stop, which is what you do in a telegram. It's insane.
Because they didn't really know what was
exactly.
coming. Yeah.
Whenever you're talking about something in the future,
You're limited.
People always think about it in terms of the present.
How else could you?
Well,
How could you actually? I mean, you could make up anything. I'm sure. Well, they would have, like in the 1800s, even not that long ago. They said someday men will have machines that fly. And
Yeah,
it seemed so absolutely absurd and impossible.
honestly, I think in storytelling, you really can't think about the future in any other term than the present, because otherwise, no one's gonna relate to it.
But I think that we're limited as human beings, Wyatt.
No, I can come up with whatever I want to. Nothing's stopping me.
But it's always predicated on what you do understand. In other words,
No.
let me give you an example. We have, how many senses do we have? Practical.
Dozens.
Yeah, okay, but what are the 5 basics?
Sound, sight, touch, taste, feel.
Yeah. Well, you meant smell. You left out.
Yeah, well, no, that's the
You
hidden,
said touch and feel. And
that's the hidden sixth sense.
okay.
You remember that Someone movie? Yeah.
Okay, so
I smell dead people.
yes, but here's the thing, which isn't a stretch if you've ever been around a dead person for any length of time. But what you need to understand is this. So for the most part, you're right, we have lots of senses, but we basically have 5 that we think of as the main basic major senses. So now there are nuances of that. There's the sense of heat and cold. There's balance, right? There's all these other kind of senses that are not the obvious 5, but they reference them. Like heat and cold sense, you could really equate to feel. I'm feeling it. I'm just not using my flesh, but my flesh is what's interpreting this degree, hot or cold, right? So it always references back to the way we interpret 3-dimensional reality. It always does. So to try to come up with something, like if I said, come up with another sense, and you could say, I know, I could read your mind. That would be another sense. But think about, if you think about reading someone's mind, like think about, I could read your mind. How would you picture yourself reading their mind. Let's say that right now you're reading my mind. What are you doing? Are you just sort of interpreting my thoughts like they just suddenly come to you? Or do you feel like you're literally looking at a script in my brain and then reading it?
I always think if it more like being you just see like above them whatever image represents
Like
the
a
thing.
like a language bubble in a cartoon.
Sort of, yeah, like a speech bubble.
Okay.
Or actually more of a thought bubble, I think.
Okay. So but you think but the only way you can think about reading somebody's mind is seeing words that you interpret and speak, right? So you're using your eyes
Yeah.
to look at their thoughts like you would if you were reading a book. Once again, you reference the only thing you know. It's so there's no other way to do it. So to try to say, come up with another color, right? That has never existed. I mean, show me what a color that no one's ever seen before. It's like I don't even know how I could do that. I'd have to use a color that we have seen and have a derivative of that. And then that ends up being part of another color. So to come up with something literally ex nihilo, tabula rasa, yeah, I don't even know if you can almost do it. And you could say, well, wait a minute, isn't that what an invention is? I figured out a way to create an airplane that had never existed for thousands of years. But what are they using? The law of lift, which always was there. Nobody knew how to tap into it. The law of airflow. Well, you just look at a bird and their wings have been doing that all along. They just learned how to put it into a mechanical sense that allows you to do that. You needed energy to flap your wings, so we have to create an engine that replicates that. And then we have to have a weight to energy ratio that allows it to work, because that was part of the problem, was to generate the energy was too heavy to allow it to accomplish its mission. So there's all so much involved. And so in the Jetsons, and I was way off, Wyatt, I forgot all about the Jetsons. That's where this started. Why did you let me go astray? I was looking for you to reel me in.
You're so interesting when you wander.
Thank you, son. So the Jetsons had, like, when they did a telephone call, it was on the screen. It was on TV. So they would tell, "Hey, Joe, how?" And we would watch that, Wyatt, and go, "Oh, could you imagine? Ha! Would that be? I mean, come on. That'll never happen. But could you imagine? They had, their cars would fly. Of course, they were like little mini spaceships. They had a robot that would clean their house. Now that's just would never happen. It's not like you can invent something called like a Roomba that will sweep magically all by itself, or create a robot that can walk, which we now have. My point was that I lived in a world where there was no such thing as a personal computer. It didn't exist. It was ridiculously a fantasy. There's really no way to have made something like this make sense. And if you did think about a computer, it was in a warehouse filled with tubes and diodes and everything, because that's what the first computer was. It was just this huge, giant thing. So there was no way to even anticipate how this could happen, because the technology that was necessary hadn't been invented yet. Thus, we were using older technology that doesn't seem like it would work to make this thing work the way it was supposed to do. What am I saying? What am I getting at? You were born in 1996, so computers were very much part of the human experience. Obviously, they're much more advanced now than they were 28 years ago, but they still existed. They were normal. A cell phone was normal. It was part of our life. No one thought anything of it. And we even thought, how did we live without it? You've never known anything but that. Thus, to you, this is commonplace, and there should ever have been a time when it didn't exist. So you get to think of my life, son, when I was young, literally the way I have to look at somebody in the 1880s in a covered wagon because they couldn't imagine a car. And I lived in a world that is so diametrically opposed to the advances we've made that it's just like that to you. I existed, son, before anybody landed on the moon. I existed, before these things were, and my grandparents existed, before there was, you know, transatlantic flights and so many other things, and yet they were within our lifetime that these advances took place. And it makes you wonder, what does AI have in store for us? As a Christ follower, son, do you feel like there's something potentially dangerous and or nefarious about artificial intelligence?
Well, current AI, no. Current AI is literally pattern recognition on a large scale. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not creating anything. It's not intelligent. It's just really good at creating a pattern based on what it's already been fed.
Okay.
Once AI gets to the point where it can create its own things without needing to be trained on it, then you can come talk to me about if it's actually going to mean anything. But I'm pretty sure every single time a new invention that would change the world has been invented, there's always been some vocal group of people who think it's going to be the death of something.
You mean the Luddites?
I don't know what that means, but yes.
The Luddites was based on this guy, I think in the 1800s, where they created, I think, machines for doing, maybe it was automatic sewing machines or something like that. And he was concerned that this is going to destroy his ability to be a sewer or whatever you call it. And it was either that, it was some kind of thing.
Yeah,
Basically, it became, and I think his last name was Ludd or something like that. Anyways, so he goes in and basically destroys this company and burns it down and smashes all the machines because it's going to destroy his livelihood and his ability to work as a whatever. So so it's now known as a Luddite, someone who fears and loathes modern technology.
Absolutely, yes. That's exactly what happens every time. It happened with AI.
Yeah.
It happened probably with cell phones, with the computer, and it'll happen with whatever comes next.
But is there any logic and potential prescience to people fearing some sense of modernity in that it could be lethal? In other words, a television is an interesting thing. You can see the news, you can watch entertainment, but then you can become addicted to it and sit there and, of course, especially with your phone, just stare at the phone. So we see where it can become evil, or at least a derogatory implement to the human experience that makes us less engaged, less kind, less able to have interpersonal relationships. You know, I wonder myself as a believer in Christ that, do we have an obligation to always look at the morality about an invention or an idea, and how does it square with God? Remember, when people decided that they were going to build a tower to the heavens, it was not just to see how good of an architect they could be. It was a sense of pride. We don't need God. We can reach the heavens alone without the transcendent. And there's something very dangerous about hubris and pride, because pride is the original sin. God said, of all the sins, the one he hates the most is pride. And Wyatt, every single sin a human commits emanates originally from pride. I'm going to kill you because I believe I get to decide who lives and who dies. Pride. I'm going to steal that because I want it and I don't have it and I deserve it. Pride. I care and covet what you have because it's not fair. I don't have it because I deserve what you have. I don't care if you earned it. It should be mine. Pride. I will not worship God and God only. I'll worship whatever I choose to makes me feel good. Pride. I don't need to honor my parents. I am a free agent, an autonomous entity. I don't need them. They're stupid and foolish anyways. I'll go live my own life. Pride. I, am going to commit adultery. I don't have to be committed to this woman or her committed to me. I can have as many as I want. Actually, naturally, I desire them anyways. It must be the way I'm designed. I should have no sense of honor or duty or commitment or love or sacrifice or discipline. Pride. Pride is the destruction of all. Even the love of money, the love of money is the beginning of evil, right? How does it work?
The love of money is the root of all evil.
The root. God, there you go. So yeah, the love of money is the root of all evil. Money is a sense of, look what I've accomplished, look what I've learned, look what I can have. If you're a multi-billionaire and I want a yacht that's 10 times bigger than yours, what's the point? It's a boat. I don't get it. It's pride. Look what I have, better and bigger than yours, because we're always looking for something to give us satisfaction and maybe a sense of a superiority to ourselves, especially if we don't know what it is to humble ourselves to the Creator of all things. There is a cost to pride. And what in the world do most of the political element and the governmental agencies, what is it that they most desire? Power. And what does power give you? The ability to rule over others, a godlike status, a pride. It all comes back to pride. And Wyatt, I got to tell you something. I never thought that I would have this podcast, but since it still sits here, and here we go, and I'm letting God do what he does, and my hope is only that it bears fruit and makes people feel better about themselves and learns and maybe laughs, but also learns and grows and gets inspired, then it has value. I don't need an ego stroke because I can still go work as a comic or as an actor or whatever. So I have places where people can enjoy what I do. I don't need this extra piece, but my hope is that it has a value that is different and unique. And more importantly, I think it allows me to be human and just connect to people on a normal one-to-one basis because I'm just a guy that literally doesn't know what he's doing either. I really kind of have to rely on God. And so to me, if this podcast means something to you people, if it inspires you and it's funny and then next thing you know, maybe it's deep, that's kind of what God uses me to do, or at least that's the way he's designed me to think and how to communicate. Help us. Go to Brad Stein Has Issues. Please subscribe. Hit the notification button. Why? Because then it lets you know when we're here so you can watch. Like it, share it, comment, and then it gives us algorithmic advantages so that if you watch because you think there's some value here, you can help it grow so more people can have that value and it can exponentially continue. And that's what we're here to do. Go to my Facebook channel, my fan page, like it, follow it, be part of it, and just help us become whatever God might have. Go to bradstein.com, join the militia of the mind. If you're listening to this on Life Audio, on Salem, or on Spotify, go to bradstein.com, join the militia of the mind. This gives me your email. All I'm going to do is send you newsletters. Obviously, you can cut it off whenever you want, but it allows me to communicate with you, especially if something ever happened where my social media was cut off, I could still contact you. And then if you believe in what we're doing, it is a ministry, just simply join the Mighty 10,000, $3 a month, and you get special gifts, which you'll see when you go peruse my website. In the meantime, Wyatt, I think it's time for us to come full circle. I'm a little peckish. I feel a cupcake a-coming. And who best to navigate us through the cupcake land, the cupcake country, than someone who literally made millions of dollars with cupcakes? It's an amazing story of ingenuity, hard work, commitment, faith, and then something happens. This is the truth of life, the challenge of existing in a fallen world, and the hope that all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And hey, we love to listen and hear and read and watch about it happening to somebody else, but we don't want to participate. Well, sorry, if you're listening to this, you're in the game of human life, and your hell is coming, guaranteed. But what if somebody went there first and can help you navigate your way through so that you're not doing it alone? That's why Bradstein Has Issues is here, to help us find those perimeters, if we can. And today, we're going to do that with a very special guest, with a very special story. Sit back, relax, and grab a cupcake as Bradstein Has Issues has an interview with Gigi Butler.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just
Thank
minding
you for
my own.
having me.
Well, thanks for coming
This is
on here,
fun.
being that you are such a unique creator.
Thank you.
You have done something interesting for those who don't know. I don't know if we should just say, I don't want to bury the lead, but maybe we should need to save what you created for
Okay.
just for a few seconds, so that
perfect.
she actually created a business that is pretty well known. Her name is Gigi Butler. That's all I'm going to give you for a second. In just a moment, we're going to reveal what she created. So it's
Okay.
like, what's my line? But before we get there, I kind of preface this entire intro about entrepreneurship, and This isn't an Anthony Robbins podcast or a
Right.
self-help thing. Not that
Right.
there's necessarily something wrong with that, but oftentimes when you say the word entrepreneur or businessman or whatever, it sounds academic to me sometimes, or like I'm selling them something, or I'm trying to get them to join my course. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the fact that you, as a human being, lived a life that brought you to a place where you started a business that actually was quite successful, if monetary is how we gauge success. And so I want to first ask you about the idea of entrepreneurship.
Right.
What does that mean to you? I mean, it's got to be deep, especially for people that were successful. It's got to be deeper than just a term or a phrase. It must be a countenance, maybe a
Yes.
DNA, because not everybody
It
does
is a
it.
DNA for sure.
Explain to me what it means to be an entrepreneur.
For me, it is constantly recreating. I have been kicked down, and in tenacity. I was blessed. I think people are blessed with certain gifts when they're born by our Creator, and mine is faith and tenacity.
Okay.
And so I was blessed with that. And I think that an entrepreneur has to, first of all, think outside the box, but also you have to constantly be able to recreate yourself. And you have to pivot and go on a different path and be open to recreation. Most people are so afraid of creating in the first place. And then when they get kicked down and they get rejected and they feel like they've been a loser, which I have many times in my life, then they're too afraid to recreate. So I think being an entrepreneur means you have to be able to rebuild, recreate, and pivot and just do something completely different. And the things that you did in the past, you could grab those things and you can use those for your future.
Okay. Well, what's interesting, though, is that we are immediately placing this term of what you just described as the behavior that needs to be accomplished to allow it to keep moving forward
Right.
positively.
Right.
But we're applying that to business. But in some ways, if I remove the word entrepreneur and just had
Okay.
you speak about this definition without defining it, couldn't you say that's what we're supposed to do as humans?
Correct.
In our lives, and
Right.
just getting through life means we're always
Correct.
having to adjust because life isn't fair.
No,
It's not
not at all.
fun a lot of
No,
times.
it's not
And this
fun.
is interesting as now you're a Christ follower.
Yes.
Okay, as am I.
Right.
I really, really wish there would be more reminding us who are believers just how hard this Christian thing is. It is not
It's very
easy.
hard.
And it's even counterintuitive because much of what I think Jesus represents, love and companionship and partnership, and I will lift you up and see those footprints. What happened while I was carrying you? And sounds great, Gigi.
Sounds wonderful,
Sounds
right.
wonderful.
Sounds perfect.
Until you look back at the sand and say, what I see is two heels being drugged through the sand.
No, what I see is a body and God
That's
going,
it.
come on, and I'm laying almost dead, and He's throwing me and
He is.
throwing me over the goalpost.
Or the body lays there as the feet keep moving because I
Right.
gave up. I quit.
did
I kept waiting for him to carry me. And sometimes God says, this isn't a free ride.
No.
You have
No.
to do your part of this. So we're really getting kind of deep
Right.
philosophically, and I think it can be helpful to people listening.
Right.
But before we even do that, let's just quickly, if I could, help find a foundation for who you are. I
Okay.
mean, our entire life, whether we like it or not, has so much to do with our family of origin,
Correct.
who our parents were, who our family was. It helps us understand how we are going to engage the world, sometimes to flee
Right.
from what our parents gave us,
Well,
and
yes,
other
that
times
too.
and sometimes to embrace and be grateful
Right.
that they were who they were.
Right, and what they instilled in
Are you
us.
a parent? Do you have
Yes,
kids?
I have a 13-year-old daughter.
Okay. It is so hard.
Oh my gosh. It is so hard. When Jim Gaffigan, he's
Yeah.
talking about his new thing and he's like, oh, this must be the hard part when they're a toddler. Not the hard part.
Right.
This must be not the hard part.
Yeah.
They're 13. That's the hard part.
Right.
Well, first of all, I would like to say who I think God is.
Okay.
So that will establish
Sure.
my theory on what God, to me, is the ultimate creator.
Okay.
And He has placed us on this earth at the right time. I was born for a time as this, to create. So if we're too afraid to do what God wants us to do and to live out what we're supposed to do and plant seeds on this earth, then we haven't done Him justice.
Okay.
So that's who I think God is. God is the ultimate creator. He has made us to create. And if I'm not creating and using my gifts and burying them in the sand like all my talents, then I'm not fulfilling what God really wants for me. So that's who I think God is.
Okay.
And so that has led me to do so many things in my life. Different things.
So I think one of the things, and I hope this is making sense when we get to your business that you created, just because it's kind of fun maybe to tease them a little bit, because they will know once we mention what
Right.
it is, which also proves how successful it was, that people would be aware of the name. But you said something about we're all creative. So you're making these very broad brush assessments of what the human
Right.
condition is, and I agree with it. Matter of fact, we are procreators. That's what it means to procreate. It means we were given this earth and all of the dynamics of the universe and all the natural laws that are implicit in the DNA of the universe, as well as the materials. And he says, now here's all the stuff. Now you see if you can create things
Do
out
it.
of this stuff.
Yeah.
Here's some crystals. See if you can figure out ways to make radios.
Right.
Here's the wind and the gravity. But if you want to fly, you can actually use these things
Right.
if you can discover lift and overcome them. So God sort of says, I've given you the
tools.
template and the tools.
Here's the toolbox.
Now run, see
Figure
what
it
you
out.
can do. And it's fun. And thank you, God.
Right.
I've often said, when He created Eden and He gave us everything we needed, He didn't create a hammock.
No.
He said, now it's your turn. I'm done. I'm going to assist you, but you get to work.
Yeah, get
you
over there. Name the animals.
But he also created a garden. Said you have to tend to it. So that means it wasn't like
Right.
it wasn't sort of self defending itself. Obviously, maybe there was something that had to be done or cultivated, or I don't know how
Well,
it
He
worked.
made us over the animals
Yeah.
and to till the earth. I mean, we are captains of
Right.
the earth, and
Yes.
we have to be good to the animals, and we have to manage this earth.
That's right. And that's what
And we have the brains to do that.
That's what dominion means, to take
Correct.
dominion over the earth and to be grateful for it
Right.
and be honorable for this thing that
Right.
God has given to us. But he said it's yours.
Right.
So you
yours.
do it in a positive way.
go.
So you talked about that. So talk to me just quickly about kind of, just so we know who you are, your life as far as growing up. Where were you born? And tell me just a quick sense of who your family was and how that affected who you are.
Well, it affected me greatly. I was born in Oklahoma, so I'm an
Okay.
OU fan. But then my dad got a job. He was an LA County Fire Department fireman, and he had lots of time being a fireman. And he was a very good entrepreneur in many ways. And we had a potbelly pig business, a hair salon, restaurants. We had
What
a
would
farm.
now be called a side hustle?
Yeah, those are side hustles,
Right.
yes. And he didn't succeed at all of them, but what it taught me as very young is it go for it. God's got your back. If you fall, you're fine. So I was raised with, hey, I could do anything I want. That's what was my realm. And my mom was an amazing homemaker.
Okay.
She was Martha Stewart on steroids.
Nice.
So I learned all that, but I didn't think I'd be doing that for a living.
Okay.
And at 7 years old, I was roller skating outside, and I was listening to the new Dolly Parton song. And I came in for dinner, and I'm like, y'all, I'm going to move to Nashville. I'm going to be a country music singer-songwriter.
At 7.
And at 7.
Okay.
No, I knew. Like, that
Okay,
was it.
nice.
And they're like, oh, okay, well, go for it, honey. So that was where my path started at 7. And I put blinders on, and I'm extremely tenacious, like I told you. And everything was ends to a means to get to where I needed to be. And I knew I was going to move to Nashville. So right out of high school, I packed up and I moved to Nashville. I sang in Montreal, all across Canada for 6 months. And I sang with a band throughout Canada. And then I came back and I'm like, no, I'm moving to Nashville. College wasn't for me because college, you have to sit there and you have to be in this box. And I've never been that person.
Yeah.
And I've always been a rebel at that. Like, why do I have to sit here for 6 hours and you teach me? I love to read. I'm an avid reader, but I'm just too ADD.
Yeah.
I'm like, So it wasn't for me. So I started a cleaning business at 15 before I moved, and that was ends to a means. And I built my cleaning business up. I did residential, commercial, construction cleaning. And I went through all of with the construction guys and the contractors, and who's this little girl coming up and trying to do a bid on International House pancakes? I got it. I got the bid. I bid too low. They took advantage of me. I was sexually harassed more than you could ever imagine.
Oof.
But what I learned from that is how to negotiate and how to be tough. And so the cleaning business, I'm like, well, I had $500 to my name, moved to Nashville. My theory was, this is my big first step of faith, was if God could deliver the unbelieving Israelites or the doubting Israelites through the Red Sea and give them a home and want to be family with them, then he could do it for me. So that was my first big step, was moving to Nashville, no money, $500, no job, no place to live, but I was led.
Well, I think you said something as you prefaced all this that I think shouldn't be lightly dismissed. You said you went to your parents at 7 years old and you said, I'm moving to Nashville, I'm going to be a singer.
Right.
And what they did was say, okay.
Right. They supported
That's all they
me.
said.
Yeah.
They said, okay.
Yeah.
In other words, you learned subconsciously from that age that you could become whatever you wanted to be.
Right.
Now, there was a time when that was considered maybe the American dream,
Right.
right? Because that's kind of what's part of the DNA of being an American,
Right.
was that you can create anything you want. It's why
Right.
people just will die to get to this nation,
Correct.
because nobody else said you can do anything. And
Right.
we get these first generation immigrants
Right.
that come here that barely speak English,
Right.
but one thing they knew is I know how to make tacos
Right.
from Ecuador, where I'm from,
Right.
and I'm going to do that. And next thing you know, they're making business. It's like it's
I know
like
how
a
to mow a
miracle.
lawn.
It's like a miracle that
Right.
you've been given this magic
Correct.
world, this Oz, where anything can happen. as long as you're tenacious and desire to do the work. It's why
Right.
it's so sad to me, why identity politics to me is so evil.
Oh.
Because it teaches people that you can't achieve based on the
Right.
way you look
DEI.
or where you're from. And it's like, yeah, but do you know that if you look at the people that are successful, that look like you, by the way, whether
Right.
they're a minority, status looking, or
Right.
they're a woman or whatever,
Right.
since
Whatever
you're
it is.
older,
Right.
I mean, I think Colonel Sanders was like 60 when he started Kentucky, or
63.
something like that.
Right.
So there's no limits if you
Right.
just decide not to limit yourself.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So, but my point is this. I've said this to people before, but my dad said to me once, you can be anything you want to be if you're willing to work hard enough.
Right.
Now, as simple and as bumper stickery as that sounds, there was only one thing I did, Gigi, with that statement. I believed him.
That's right. Me too.
I said, "Oh, okay.
Oh.
Oh, is that how it works, Dad?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm
Just
going
do
to
it.
go
Work
do
hard.
this
Work
thing."
your butt off.
And here's an interesting thing about it. As I look at my life's work, I started out as a magician, a
Right.
close-up sleight of hand magician in California, where you were from, and I was in southern Orange County,
Right.
and I performed in restaurants and so forth around those times. Now there wasn't a lot of money. This is in the '80s. There wasn't a lot of money in close-up magic.
Right.
I think I made $50 a night or something. No, it was better money
Right.
then
Later
than
on.
it is now,
Right.
but it wasn't a lot. And I remember my dad at one point, and he was he was an auto body repairman.
Right.
Had a bunch of kids, so kind of his dream was to be an actor, to be a singer. Never panned out, but that's why he moved to California from
Right.
Indiana, is where I'm from.
Right. Brennan, right?
Bremen, that's
Bremen.
right. And we moved and he wanted to be an actor and a singer. He had his own little band in Indiana. So he had these dreams, but it never panned out for him. But anyways, I remember one time he kind of looked at my life and he goes, you might want to have, like, go to college and just get some training
Degree.
in something, just so you have a backup plan
Right.
in case this doesn't work. Now, he always supported what I did
That's how
because
my
he wanted
parents
to be a
were.
musician. He wanted to be. So I think he really resonated. Here's a guy trying to go in this crazy business that's so hard, the entertainment
Yeah.
business.
So hard. Oh.
So he never dissuaded me. He always believed in me.
Right.
But he, at one point, I think, just tried to be pragmatic. Son, you might want to just have a backup, just
Right.
in case,
Just in
because he
case.
didn't know how to navigate this world. I don't know what a magician. I don't know how this works. I mean, you're a parent. You
Some
care.
of my parents were. You care, but you're
you
like,
don't know how to
what's a
direct them.
country
'Cause-
singer? What do you do? Yeah.
Well,
What's a
if you have
musician?
nothing to do with that world, you can't
Right.
even navigate what it would mean, because I don't even know how to help you. Because it's it's like saying I would be an astronaut. I don't
Right.
even know how you do that.
Like, I guess you go to space.
Yeah. But this was what was interesting to me, and it's kind of I guess it goes back to entrepreneurship and the DNA of that. I think that either you're born with it, frankly,
I think so.
because it nobody taught me to say I'm going to go do this thing,
Right.
other than maybe the encouragement when he said you can be anything you want. But when he said that to me, I remember in my head thinking, I don't think you get this. I'm going to be a magician.
Yes.
There is no backup plan.
Right.
I'm doing this.
That's what I thought too. That's what I said to myself.
And guess what I became? A professional magician that eventually became a professional comedian, that eventually became a professional actor, that eventually became a professional author, that eventually became a
Professional podcaster.
podcaster,
Right.
that eventually became a ministry. I didn't see any of that coming. But the
Right.
point was, by one idea,
Of you can do it.
this is what I'm doing. And that is the single most lacking quality, I believe, in most human beings, that guys like, or gals like you and I have,
Right.
is we say,
It's
you
missing.
don't understand, guys. I'm doing this.
Right.
And we say, I don't care what happens.
That's
Along
how
the
I was.
way, I'm going there.
I'm
And
doing
guess
it.
what? You get there.
You get there. I didn't get there professionally. I mean, I did professionally, but not big time. But what I learned through getting there, like what you learned as a magician, is your timing. And I think that what's the most important thing for a comedian is, and a pastor, by the way, and a public speaker, is timing. So what you learned back here, you're taking it and you're learning all of this. So what I learned as a singer on the stage and dealing with drunks and dealing with all the people is my timing and how to work that, how to work a crowd. So,
Very interesting. Well, I like the idea of adding timing to the idea of just your life in general, or even what you're trying to aspire to. I think that's an interesting take. I was talking to my son, who runs the producing podcast, My Sidekick. He's a drummer, and so one thing I did learn is that the drummers are usually the funniest people in the band.
yeah, they
If you
usually
think
are.
of the Keith Moons and the people that they were crazy
They
too,
were the
but
easiest going too. They
They
kept
were.
everything together because they had great timing and they
that's it.
kept.
Well, that's what I was getting
Right.
at. Well, why would they be the funniest people? Because their job is the metronome.
That's right.
Their job
Job
is
is
the timing,
balance.
and comedy's
Right.
timing.
Right.
So that's interesting. Well, let's utilize this timing as a
Okay.
perfect sort of segue into something that you decided to do in your life for some reason, which we're about to find out. And you went for it, and apparently you got there, and apparently it paid off in spades, at least for a while.
It
I don't
did.
know. We'll find out.
It did.
But if you would tell the audience, what is it that you created that kind of gave you your name?
Well, Gigi's Cupcakes. Yes. There it is, the
Yeah,
sweetness.
like the McDonald's of cupcakes.
Right, the
Okay.
founder.
Yes.
Yes.
Look at you.
So-
You're the Ray Kroc-esque.
I am.
Okay.
That's right. I love that movie, by the way.
Oh.
There was so much about that movie that I related
Connected to, like, oh,
Yeah,
been there. That's real.
I was on both sides of him and the other guy, and it was amazing. But before then, I built my cleaning business here in Nashville to a really good size, and then I was singing at night and singing at Tootsie's and getting my butt pinched and passing the tip jar around and getting sexually harassed. All of the things.
See, now I ever got my butt pinched, and that's
Oh,
not
it's-
fair. Why don't we ever get
don't
have
know.
to wrestle with
I
that
think
as
with
men?
all the bachelorettes down there now and how
Yeah,
it's changed, you
probably
probably would get some good grabs
That's
right
true.
now because they're a little bit more brazen than they were
Oh
20
my
years
goodness,
ago.
what a great word, brazen.
Brazen. So I was doing that, and then I was still building my cleaning. And my brother, 3 nights prior, I made $35 after I paid all my drunk stone musicians and counted the tips. And he's like, you really might need to think about doing something else. I know, and I'm like, no, this is for me. This is all I've been. I'll going to be a loser if I don't do this.
You mean musician?
Singer songwriter.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
Right.
when he said he wasn't talking about not the cleaning business.
You should stop
You
being
should-
a city.
okay, okay.
It's time. I was nearing 30, 28, I think at the time. And I had started cleaning this is where my epiphany happened. And it usually happens near a toilet, which is hilarious. I started cleaning for a new family in town. They had a daughter who was 15 and full of talent, and they were extremely successful. And they came into town and said, my daughter's a savant, make her a star. And so one day I was cleaning her toilet and cleaning her bathroom, and she came in the bedroom and she started practicing guitar on her bed and singing this song. And I looked over and I said, did you write that song? She goes, yeah, it's going to be my first album. And right then I'm thinking to myself, you're 15, I'm 28, almost 29. You have millions of dollars to support you. I'm cleaning your toilet. I'm done. So I packed my cleaning supplies in my truck that night. I drove home. I'm like, what am I going to do? And it happened to be Taylor Swift, which,
Wow.
yes. So, and we all know where she has,
Yeah.
That's
Apparently
right.
she's still at it.
apparently.
I haven't heard much of it, but
I don't know. Apparently
I think
she
she's
is.
still dabbling.
She's dabbling just a little bit. So that day was the epiphany of where I knew I needed to pivot. But I felt like such a failure because all of my life, that's all I focused on was, and this cleaning was the ends to the means.
Yeah.
But that's when I started thinking, and I was like, why me, God, why? But then I started really listening to CDs and tapes and, and I'd always listened and read about entrepreneurs and how they did it, but how to heal myself from what I thought I was going to be and my identity crisis and who I'm really rooted in and who I am and what it doesn't have to be that I'm the country singer. So my whole attitude starting to change from why me to, well, why not me? If I'm just going to be a house cleaner and I'm just going to do this, okay, I'll be the most successful house cleaner out there. And then that's when God, and I was open to something new, because most people are too afraid and they shut themselves off after the first rejection. And that's when God, I think, uses us the best, is when we're humble, we're beaten down, we feel like we're the loser, but we're open to change. And that is the greatest gift that you could ever have, is get your butt kicked, but still be open to what God can do for you. So that's when things change, and that's what most people, I don't think, can do. It's very hard for people because they're afraid, and people are stifled by being afraid and failure. So I was cleaning toilet at the time. Remember, my epiphanies happen near a toilet.
Yeah.
And my brother called me, and I had my little pink cedar gloves on, and he called me. He was in New York City. He stood in line at a cupcake shop for 2 hours. He was eating a red velvet cupcake in Central Park, and he's like, you should open a cupcake shop in Nashville. I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, remember, our aunt's baked, our grandma's baked, my mom bakes. You could do this. Your cupcakes are better than theirs, which I'd never really made a cupcake. I made cakes, but I didn't put it into a cupcake form. And I got off the phone, and I'm like, I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, why not? Why not me? Why not me?
But still,
I've
that's.
already got my butt kicked.
But listen to me, that isn't normal. It's
No.
it's not
It's not normal.
uncommon to go, oh, I should do this, or I'm good at this. That's easy.
Right.
Everybody's got an idea.
Right.
Everybody thinks I
Right.
could do this better.
Right.
I'm a better singer than her.
Right.
Everybody in this town, Nashville.
Oh, good grief, yes.
I mean, can you imagine having the audacity to bring a guitar in this town and say, I'm pretty good at this?
Yeah, no.
Really?
Really? Let's see
Get
it.
in line. Wait till you get a load of what your competition
Yeah,
is.
you are
because
done.
it's ridiculous.
Ridiculous. We are the ultimate creators here.
And yet, you did the harder thing. The vision, the dream.
Right.
Frankly, maybe not everybody takes time to do that, but I think it's natural for a human to have dreams.
Right.
Wouldn't it be cool if I could do this, or I sure wish I could, or I wish I don't like this job, I wish I could do this, or I wish I wasn't this, I wish I was actually the owner instead of the.
But they don't do that.
But they don't
They don't.
do it.
Because they're afraid of failure.
Maybe.
They're afraid they're afraid, and I've spoke for thousands of people across the country. And the main question I get is, how do you get over the hump of fear? And that's a whole other subject, but fear, once again, if you have the gift of tenacity and faith, and you're the ultimate, in the back,
Yeah.
he's the ultimate creator. But fear I have to look at as an obstacle. It's just something you have to either climb over, go around, blow through, but fear is something you just have to get through. And it's just this thing. And there's a reason why there's a fear not 365 times in the Bible. One for every day. Fear not. Don't fear. Jesus and God are telling us, do not fear. And we're not taking it on.
But fear is natural,
It is
right? It does
natural.
come to us. So it makes me wonder this, Gigi.
Fighting fear, though, builds your faith.
Well, that's what I was getting at. So that's a good point. Here's what I was going to say, because it really does respond to what I do, which is as a stand-up comic. So I've known a lot of performers, obviously, because I'm in that business.
Yes.
And so I've known lots of musicians. I've known lots of actors.
Right.
I've known, obviously, lots of comedians. I've
Right.
known lots of magicians.
Right.
I've known authors. So I've known a lot in the performance art or the entertainment industry. I've known lots and lots of people. And without question, I have seen more of people in the industry, not comics, doing everything else, and maybe very successful in that other thing,
Right.
that all have said the same thing to me. They've looked me in the face and they said, I do this, I perform in front of thousands of people, and I couldn't imagine standing in front of a crowd and trying to be a comedian. Something about comedians scares the crap out of
it does.
people. Comedy, not even speaking publicly, which is the biggest fear that people have,
Right.
and you said you're a public speaker.
Right.
Something about comedy it's like it's visceral. People are just I don't even want to pretend I'm doing it because
Right.
it's so frightening. And I'm sitting there
You know
going,
why?
I don't.
This is why. Because you have to be at your most vulnerable to be a comedian. Because you are absolutely cutting yourself open and you're laying yourself bare for people, all the world to see and accept you. And if you're not accepted, then that's a failure and that is a rejection. And people are terrified of rejection. Terrified. So being a comic is the most vulnerable thing you could ever do because you are bringing that. When you're singing a song, it's different. I can act. I'm singing a song. When you're doing a guitar thing, that's different. That's art, but that's not bearing yourself and laying yourself bare
Okay.
for the humans. And it's timing. And
Yeah.
what I said before, if you're not successful with timing, you will not be a good preacher or comic, period.
Well, let's kind of unravel that a little bit because when you said that at first, my first sort of contemplation was, well, wait a minute, isn't that what an actor does? I mean, they stand
They
there
pretend.
and they pretend.
They
And
pretend to be
and
someone
what-
else.
but the thing that kind of ruminated in my head when I thought about an actor was, and I've done that. I've been in a lot of
Right, you
movies,
have.
and so I know that, and I love that. By the way, I love acting. But guess what? It's somebody else's words.
Right.
I'm just creating a character that they gave me kind of the impetus to.
So it's a shell, right?
The
You're-
comedian is not only am I performing it, I thought of this. So if you reject this, but now tell me, musician,
Yes.
well, what is the difference between comedian, hey, do you think this is funny what I just thought of? Because if you reject it, you rejected my sense of what is funny. What's the difference between that and saying, I want to sing a song to you that really meant a lot to me? Ah, that sucks. Why wouldn't that be the same?
It is the same because I've had that happen.
Okay.
Go home, little girl. You
Sorry
suck.
to bring that
you
up.
suck. And I'll tell that's a
But was
really
it
funny
songs
story.
you wrote?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
that's
I'd
rough.
be like, oh.
So what's the
and
difference between writing a song that's rejected and doing a joke that's rejected?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
See, that's why you
I-
came on my show.
I would
to make you
think,
think
though-
of things you never thought of.
Right. You're.
I'm your
Amen,
means to the
brother.
end.
That's who you are. Well, I think though that I could do that, so that's easy, because I've done it. And if they reject it, I'm like, well, you reject it, but someone else is going to like it. And maybe it's the same thing. Maybe I am laying myself bare.
Well,
and
I don't know
think
how
it,
you
but
wouldn't. I mean,
I don't know how you wouldn't either.
and
but I
here's what,
haven't thought of it.
and I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm because I am telling you
You
that
can argue with
most
me.
people
It's
are
fine.
saying, comedy is scarier to them. But
It's
I
scarier.
want to give some props to the musician because they also wrote it, and it usually came from a real place. But here's what's
Right.
even more.
Maybe it's with melody. Maybe there's
Maybe.
something that the mind is soothing, even if it's a bad song. You can still be soothed with the melody, and you could still have these words. So it's not an absolute, I'm talking to you, you better think it's funny, I'm laying myself bare. It's more vulnerable. And because the melody at least soothes someone.
I've always said that, the one thing that is different about music, especially if you're in a band, is that if you're having an off day, and everybody does, they don't know what you went through that morning and you
Right.
had a fight with your wife or your husband or your boyfriend, or you got bad news, or you can't afford rent, things that are heavy upon you. And then you have to go up and perform and be, woohoo, isn't life great? And they don't know what you're trying to overcome in your real life as you put on this game of look how great life is,
Right.
because aren't my songs one of them. But I'm thinking you can kind of there's other people in the band that can kind of pick up some slack. I'm not, it's harder for the lead singer because you're kind of the front man.
You have to have the energy.
But still, the guy can come out and do a lead solo and give you a chance to kind of like retreat for a second. There's nowhere to hide with comedy.
No.
You're by yours.
You're
now,
laid bare.
Yeah. Now, it could be a James Taylor solo guy too, and that's
Right.
equally. But the one thing that's different that I've always tried to, I've said it to musicians, they've kind of laughed, but I think there's something here to explore, is music is very unique of all the arts
It is.
because it's the only art form I know of where I could be driving down the road, hear a song and go,
Takes
it's
you back.
1984. I was in high school. I did, I remember I went to and that was the time I found out that, my parents were getting divorced, and that song came. You never forget that song. It gives you instantaneous, and or you go to get married and you say, honey, will you play our song? Nobody's ever said, will you do our joke? Can you do our joke for us?
That's true.
So the joke doesn't
That's
fit
true.
that emotional element. There's
No,
something
it doesn't.
sacred about music. It comes from God's throne.
Right. Well, it's part of our our five senses, right?
Yeah.
We hear, we feel, but also taste is a part of that. That's why I think that food takes you back, because it's that smell, it's that taste,
Interesting, yeah.
and you can eat.
Okay.
And so many people came in and said, this tastes like when my grandma made it when I was a kid, and boom, because it takes you back to where you
They
were.
have a term for that.
What?
Comfort food.
Comfort food. That's
That
right.
food gives me comfort.
Because it takes you back to where it stimulates a memory.
Yes.
And so does music. Music stimulates a memory. Food stimulates a memory.
I had some grandparents in Indiana who lived on a farm, and I grew up going there for Christmas and Thanksgiving and with cousins and everything, a little tiny town in Indiana you brought up. And they lived there, and they died basically there. So, and I was in my 30s when they finally passed. So they were there my whole life. And my parents got divorced, so that was super trauma. And of course, I've lost family members in the interim and this and that. And one time I was in the front porch, and we're on the country. And we were out on the front porch. I was out there with my grandpa, and I said, why I love coming here? And he goes, why is that? I said, because I'm an adult by this point. I'm married. I said, because this is the only place left in my life that is exactly like it was when life was good.
Yes.
When I didn't know that divorce existed, when I didn't realize that people died, when I didn't know that you're going to be betrayed by the people you most count on, when I didn't know that you're going to have a pain you can't even imagine, when I didn't realize what life really was, because when you're a kid, your parents kind of help protect you from that thing.
Right.
When I come back here, it's exactly like it was when it was good, when life wasn't full of it. And, this is the thing, Gigi, that I just feel is necessary and missing often as believer Christ followers. I just don't think there's enough honesty in saying this isn't easy. And there's a lot of times when I say to God, no idea where you are.
Right.
I
Well,
have
know.
no idea what you're up to.
Right.
This doesn't make any sense to
at
me.
all.
And I can remember going through some deep depressive times in my life, waking up in the middle of the night and struggling with whatever it was, finances or something that I'm like, or my career or my life or what's happening. It's never, maybe where do you think it's supposed to be? No matter what you achieve, it's never what was
I know.
enough.
I
Never
know.
enough.
Oh, I know.
But I remember literally shaking my fist to heaven saying I would never treat my son like this.
Well, this is a good time to say this to you. And this is what I would we are refined, and we're better when we're refined by fire. When we go through horrible, hard times and we survive it, we are better people. And God, like he did with Jesus, that was his own son.
Yeah.
And he put him on the cross for the better good. So when we go through the butt kicking, the torture, when we go through that and you think, why God? Why? God is saying, because I want you to be better. Kind of like when in 2020, let's just say that was the worst, crappiest year on the planet for the world.
Right.
It stunk. But for President Trump, it really was bad. And all of us Christians that we knew he was in there, and we'll get into that. But if he hadn't taken these 4 years to be absolutely tortured, refined by fire, he would not be the strong leader that he needs to be right now for the free world. He wouldn't be, because he's not the same person he was in 2020.
That's for sure.
He picked bad. He was a lot more boastful. And I love his personality. We won't get into that, but he needed to be refined because God knew that he needed to be the strong person to lead us, just like a George Washington or an Abraham Lincoln. So God is like, I'm doing this because I'm going to make you better. And through this hell torture, somehow you're going to be stronger. And you're stronger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're more refined.
Of course.
And
of
you're
course.
you get it. When people don't go through any hard times, and I know so many people that, live in these mansions around here, and these women have never worked and they don't have any focus on reality, then when something happens, they're like, oh my gosh, my world, God, where are you?
Yeah.
But when you get chunked down and you get hit continually from when you're birthed to now, you're like, oh, well, I get back up and I'm like, here we are. Let's go, God. What do we got? What you got for me? It's just a different mindset.
For sure. And the one thing for sure that's unique about Christianity that is frustrating, honestly, but essential,
Right.
is every time you want to say to God, what the heck? I mean, anytime you want to step in, feel free. Because enough's enough.
Right.
Enough is enough. And it's like you don't understand, and you're God. And the one thing Christianity gives the world that no other religion or philosophy does, and the reason this is true is because Christianity is true. It's not of a religion. It's
Truth.
literally the revelation of reality to
Correct.
how the human race works.
Yes.
Is he said, you never get to say that to me.
You know what he says? Timing.
Yeah. Well, what I was
My time.
Oh, yes. Well, still, it's irrelevant. Listen, easy platitudes. I agree.
I don't know if they're easy platitudes.
Agree.
Most people don't understand timing.
I agree with what you're saying.
Right.
Doesn't make it easier.
It doesn't make it
ju-
easy.
I'm not going to pretend.
But being a disciple is not easy.
No.
Being a Christian is kind of easy.
Christian's
if you're on the
easy,
fence.
disciples hard.
Disciple is tough.
Is becoming a slave, literally. To
Literally.
God. And it's like, this is not what I would. No, the point I was making, and everything you're saying, I agree with. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is not whether we all know the right words and the right Bible verses. There's moments at time where you go, this isn't enough. This isn't making me better. You lose a child. Well, let me give you, he's in a better place. You know what?
he's not.
Stick it up your butt.
Yeah, no.
He's in a better place. What are you talking about?
Right.
And guess what? The Bible says how to handle that. He said, grieve with those who grieve. Right now, grieve with them.
Mourn with those who
It's
mourn.
okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Fight with those who fight. It's okay to be where they're at because the human condition is really broken and hard and
It is
difficult. But he always gets to say in the end, son, I gave my son up for you. He was beaten. He was crucified. He was unjustly accused. He was spit upon. He was hated. He had to die. So no, son, you got nothing to tell me that I haven't experienced. And by the way, when you come out the other side of this, whether it's on this earth or in eternity,
Right.
the only reason you get there is because of what my son did. So I love you. I understand your pain. But no, you don't get to pull any kind of poor me card on me.
No.
That's what I have done for humanity that nobody else has ever done. And it doesn't make it easier.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make it more comforting.
You created a cupcake place called
Right.
Gigi's Cupcakes.
Yes.
I'm guessing it was just a little shop in the beginning.
Well, I went to 4 banks, and they laughed in my face. And I said, I've been in business since I was
Were you
15."
singing?
I wasn't singing. I should have.
You just talked to them.
I just talked to them.
Because I know you said they laughed at you when you sang, so I didn't know if you came
Oh,
in
they
and
always
said,
laugh
got a
at me.
cupcake coming. You want to join?
Cupcake Live. So they all laughed in my face. And I
So
thought,
you were
well,
trying to get a loan.
a loan. And I'm like, well, I'm a woman. It was kind of popular to get a business loan for a female at that time in 2007, right?
Oh.
And
DEI?
DEI, I'm like, well, I've been in business. I had a lot of great credit. I had a little bit of savings. They all laughed in my face. And so I went home and I'm like, okay, I feel led to do this, God. How can I skin this cat? And I thought, well, I'm going to take out $100,000 cash advances on my credit cards. I'm going to do it. And my clients who were business people, lawyers, successful actors, successful musicians, singers, all these people are like,
In the cleaning business.
in the cleaning
clients.
business.
Okay.
They're like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
And one of the most successful people in real estate was like, Gigi, sit down. No, you're crazy. No, cupcakes aren't going to be a thing. I'm like, in my gut, they are. So I have to fulfill this dream. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to fail. I said, I already failed at singing, and I got my butt kicked. If I have to take $100,000 and spend my life paying it off, I'm okay with that risk. So I opened my first shop with $100,000. I had $33 left to my name when I opened my doors. I didn't know what I was doing. They're like, do you have a business plan? I'm like, no. And they're, what do you mean? Well, let me help you. I said, no, I have a dream. I have 12 cupcakes actually, and I'm going to just open.
Now, were there any cupcake stores at that time?
There was one in New York City, but they
So
were
in
more
a
of
way,
bakery.
you did find a little niche.
I was the big dog on the porch, one of the big dogs. There was another guy doing it right at the same time in Austin, and I was studying him. But I wanted to be, because I knew Nashville was the creative town, and people would really support me. And I had a lot of business people that I cleaned for or I sang with, and they're like, oh, bless her heart. Okay, because I cleaned so many people.
We'll
on
buy you
music
little
group.
cakes.
We'll buy her cakes. So, we're going to go to the musician's house, or we're going to do our clients, or my patients are coming in. I'll buy a dozen, and that's where my business started. And from 2007, in September, in Labor Day, to February 2008, I opened February 21st, 2008, and I had $33 left in my name, and I just knew that I had to do it. And I opened, and lines formed, and it just became a phenomenon. And what's so funny is Taylor Swift doesn't know that I cleaned her toilet, but she loved Gigi's Cupcakes. She bought thousands of Gigi's Cupcakes for me when the CRS radio would come in, and she'd buy individual cupcakes. And
So she stumbled upon this as a Nashvilleian,
Nashvilleian.
and had no idea that
No
you were the
idea.
woman that used to clean
like
her
the
toilet.
epiphany of when that happened, when I needed to stop singing. Like, you can't
What a
make
great
it up.
story.
It's a great story.
And you've never talked to her since
No,
just
I
to
don't
let
think
you know?
she even knows.
Okay,
but she
that's
bought
just an interest.
thousands of cupcakes from me,
Wow.
and Leanne Rhymes that I cleaned for, and I mean all these people. Brad Paisley's manager, all these people that were like, "Oh, poor Gigi, we'll help her. She cleaned," but she didn't know.
But it couldn't have been they were feeling sorry for you, even though that was helpful. Obviously, the product had to be
It
there,
was-
or
it's-
you
it
wouldn't have
was
kept
superior.
saying. And I literally was sitting here going, wow, how did you even come up with that? And then I just realized, well, wait a minute. There's donut shops.
Yes.
You just instead made it cupcakes. So
Right.
all you did differently,
Right.
because there's nothing new under the sun.
No.
All you
nothing
did
new.
differently was say, I'm going to specialize in an element that you might get in the bakery at Publix as an
Right.
off-brand. And we got cake. Oh, got some cupcake. And you said, no. Let's make this the essential item. And it must have been unique cupcake.
Well,
Something
it
had to
is.
stand out, unless they
It
were just
is.
so delicious.
Well, they are, but what's special about them is, with my background and all of the marketing I've done through music and all of the successful people's homes I've been in, everyone has to have a shtick. I don't know if you've ever heard of that word.
Sure.
But you have to have a shtick if you're going to make it successful as a comedian, as a musician, as an actor. There has to be something about you. So with Gigi's Cupcakes, I had to bring something different. So, and I wanted people subliminally to see that Scarlet's Red Velvet and know that, oh, that tasted like my grandma, but yet make it beautiful. So the marketing was there, my packaging, and I'm a stickler for detail and getting it right, and I wouldn't compromise. I wasn't going to compromise. And if I was a man doing it, I'd be oh man, he's a stud, he's a great businessman. But I was called something else. Oh, she's just a hard-headed, biatch. But I was like, no, I'm not compromising.
Compromising, you mean like in the ingredients?
Yes, in the
So
ingredients, or
maybe
in
it
the
was
thing.
more expensive to get butter than to get the oil,
right.
the
oil and
vegetable
the-
oil.
right,
She
and-
said, but I'm going to use refined flour instead of
Right.
I'm guessing.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
That was the specialty of it. And a lot of people don't know this, but my great-great-grandmother in the turn of the century had her first bakery in Oklahoma called Beal's Bakery. And her brothers worked for her. And so my grandmother's baked, my aunts baked, my mom bakes, my whole background is baking. So I took all these recipes, all these cakes, this lemon cake, the limoncello cake, my noni cannoli cake.
So this
all
came from your family's
Yes.
historical recipes.
background. But
Interesting.
then I brought it and I made it into something new and something cool that people could relate to. But when they come into my store and they smell and then they taste, they're like, this tastes like my grandma. And not a lot of people bake, right? Not a lot of women bake anymore. So, but they want, men and women want what they had with their grandma in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and it brought them back. So that was the special part of it. And we were going through a huge recession at the time, 2008, and people weren't going to, probably Ruth Chris but they were going to Applebee's, but they wanted that special little $3 little gift that made them feel special.
Yeah.
So it was $3, not $25 for a
So
pie.
if you had never done this, obviously you had a business, the cleaning business,
Right.
which seems to be completely diametrically opposed to what you were doing. But
Absolutely.
you had to have some sense of cost and
Right.
margins.
How to
I mean, you have to have
negotiate.
a way of knowing how a profit works and what
Right.
is the proper markup to make this make sense. But how would you even go about that if you had never been in the food selling business?
Well,
'Cause
my dad was in
Okay.
the restaurant business.
Okay.
So that helped. And what also helped is I'm so good at operations. Like I can go into a house and I can go boom, boom, boom. I can do this. I can clean this. Like my operation skills are super powered.
Okay.
So that helped me. And I can, okay, no, the floor's dirty. Let's do 15 of the white cupcakes. Let's do this. Let's bring the chocolate on. Okay, I've got to make the white first. Then I can use the same bowl for the chocolate. So all of those skills of cleaning and time management was the superpower to help me grow.
But how do you decide? And I don't want to get off in the weeds here, but I think it is important because I'm guarantee you some people are going to watch this and go, "Well, I had a dream to start this and that."
Right.
So how do you eat? But you're in this odd business where you're making a large batch of food. It's not
Right.
like you're just a caterer trying to make a
Right.
meal for 4 people. It's like I've got to make. So I have to discover how much does the flour cost, how much does the sugar cost, how much is the sour cream, whatever it is you make your unique stuff. I got to buy it. I got to know what it costs. I got to know how much portions of that go into each batch and how much that plays out if I break it all down. So I make a profit, but not make it so much that nobody wants
Right.
it. And then I got to make sure that the flavors work. And then I have to be aware of, well, hey, I guess they don't like this one, so I'm going to ditch that and make a new brand. Or these are the ones that are selling. I'm going to focus on them, but I don't want to make too many because then they go
Right.
bad and they're 2 days later they're stale. So there's a lot going on
Correct.
for this to make money.
Well, it was trial and error. And I grew so fast that I didn't have time to worry about mistakes and failure.
What a great problem.
I just grew so fast.
But
and I
wouldn't
was
that be a
like,
great problem?
Yeah, what a
It's
great
like, what do I
problem.
do with all this money?
It was a gold mine.
Hey, everybody,
I was
I've got a
like-
bag of money and I don't know what to do with it.
Right. Well, I wish I would have thought that.
But you had a ton of dough
did.
coming,
I
and that was
did.
good. It made you
I
feel
did.
good. You were paying off your debt
Right, and I
to
was
the
still
bank.
cleaning at the time because I had 3 girls that were working for me.
Okay.
So I would open
Wow.
up in the morning and I would bake from like 5 in the morning. I didn't have a child at the time. I'd bake at 5 in the morning, then I'd go clean, and then I would go. And I didn't stop my cleaning
Holy
business till I had
smoke.
13 stores. I
What?
I worked my
And-
butt off.
No kidding.
I can work. I'm a worker, man. Oh, I can work it.
Now, you
If
were
I-
married?
No,
You weren't married. So you were a single woman.
Single woman.
Just killing it.
killing it. Wow. And then I went on the road and started opening cupcake shops, and I took on a partner. I took on my parents and family members. That's when things turned a little interesting because it,
Interesting in like, uh-oh, or
Yeah,
interesting
uh-oh.
in, woohoo.
uh-oh.
Aw.
They helped me. That's a whole other story, but
Is it an important story? Is it a story that can heal people?
it's so hard that I think it would be a whole other podcast.
I
As
hope
in-
it's not they got involved and then next thing you know, they wanted to start taking over and take all my money and my profits and basically
Yes.
control it and buy me out and throw me to the side now that and I hope that's not the story.
That's the story. Correct. That's the story.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's the story.
Ah,
It's been a very.
why?
I opened this cupcake shop and I lost everything and I lost my family.
What?
And then 2020 hit, and I had my pie shop in Brentwood, and 2020 hit, and I lost everything. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to lose everything and recreate myself, I'm moving to Florida. And I'm going to write my books, and I'm going to recreate myself.
Okay, wait a minute. We're going there because I went because all
it's-
stories need a redemption, and obviously you have
Right,
one, and we're going
right,
to get there.
right.
But and I don't want to belabor this, especially if it's something that you're not comfortable with. But I feel like it can't just be glossed over. I hope
It's so
Are
hard.
you telling me that you don't have a relationship now with your parents?
My brothers are my parents.
And they took over the play. Now, do
No,
they own it now or something?
No, they held me up in court for so long that it just ruined the company for their payout, which they never paid money in. And
And now you don't have a
I
relationship.
sold it, and now I don't have a relationship with them. Although, here's the redemption of it: I have forgiven them, and I've done wrong too. I didn't know what I was doing. I went from a house cleaner country singer to a CEO of a company that was grossing $33 million, which is really interesting. I had $33 left, and now it's grossing $33 million. 33 is an interesting number for me. I had a child on my own, which that's a whole other story. Raising her by myself, I gained 93 pounds while I was pregnant. I had 76 pounds to lose. I'm the creator of the Cupcake store. I have to lose 76 pounds, and I'm head of R&D testing our cheesecake line right after I'm pregnant. I get my daughter on the road at 6 weeks old. I'm all alone. Baby daddy didn't sign the birth certificate. You can't. The rejection that I felt, and then having to reinvent and get myself down, and that's where the health comes, and the vitamins, and working
So, and that's where
out
you've
and
ended up. Okay,
Right,
and that's
right.
where we'll
So
kind
that's
of land at the end. But there's so much depth
there's a
of
lot to
intrigue
unpack.
to this, and we only have so much
I
time.
know we do,
I mean,
yes.
I don't mind going longer, but I don't want to keep you. But
we don't want to bore the audience
no,
either.
I don't think so. I think that I would hope they're pretty intrigued
You know,
because what a great story
The
and
great thing
inspiring
about it
story.
is that this Christmas in Florida, my parents drove their motorhome down from Texas, and my daughter wanted to see them. And I asked God, it's the hardest thing I've ever done is to forgive my parents and to try to have something. And I said, God, you have to take this. And people are like, oh, take it, God. No, I'm like, God, I wrestle with this on a daily basis. I woke up from that, and I'm like, I unblocked my mom. I said, Mom, do you want to see my daughter? And we spent Christmas Eve service together, and I had them over for dinner at my house. And we had the most lovely time. And it was a part of this redemption of, I can love them. I've made mistakes too. I've lost everything. And I started over. But the refining what I'm talking about in what God can do and becoming a toilet cleaner to a cupcake queen and being on Undercover Boss and ruling the world and going all over the country and to now living in Florida and rebuilding myself again has been an interesting journey.
I don't know if Christians, Christ followers, understand the depth of what is expected if you take this seriously.
Correct.
Because the one thing that I began to struggle with for many years, I prayed for the persecuted church because I'm sitting there going, these are just people like you and me. They got their wife, they got their husband, they got their kids. They just want to live their life. Can you just leave me? Meanwhile, their kids
The
are
country's
being
being taken over with
Yeah,
and
and somebody's
minds
taking a
being controlled.
machete and
Right.
killing their kid in front of
right.
them and taking their daughter and selling them to
Right.
some guy for
You know why? Because Satan's playing this game.
Yeah.
We've been playing checkers.
Right.
Satan's been playing chess. And we have been non-proactive when all of the other people, media, music, all of these people that owns the devil's realm, they're over here playing chess.
Yeah, yeah.
And us lazy Christians, we haven't been proactive and we have not been playing chess.
Look at you.
We need to get up there
Yeah.
and do our 7 levels of.
First off, I agree with you
Right.
100%. The couple of things that have come to me in this last year is this, and we already talked about it, but it's important. It's like the theme, I think, for my life going forward. It's easy to be a Christian.
Oh,
That's easy
Yeah.
because
easy to say we're a Christian.
because Jesus did the work.
Right.
I accepted him as
Jesus
Savior.
paid
I'm a
it
Christian.
all.
Yeah. And he did.
Right.
And then I say, I want you. And God, okay, now you're free. Now you're
Right.
redeemed. Now you can enter into the Holy of Holies. That's a Christian, a Christ follower, a little Christ. That was easy because
That's
I
easy.
didn't do anything.
Well, that was
but
easy
he
up
did.
until 2020
Well, but hang on.
in America.
I think I got something significant. We were never called to be Christians.
Right. We were never called to be disciples.
We were called to
Be
be disciples. And you go out and make disciples where we get the word discipline.
Discipline.
It's so hard. And the other thing that I don't know how I missed this, Gigi, unless maybe it's the Bible says to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. If you're taking it seriously, if you're really getting to the meat of what is this thing,
Right.
I got to go beyond this. It's time to get off the milk and get into the meat. If you're really ready to do that, and these are all terms that is laid out in the Bible.
Not
Letting you know.
politically correct fancy
Jesus
over here.
said, hey, just FYI, one of the ways you'll know for sure if you're one of mine. Yeah? Yeah, what is it, Lord? Is it because everybody's going to love me? No, actually, they'll hate you. I'm sorry, what was that? If you really want it, they're going to hate you. Okay, but at least I'm a child of the King. Yeah, but you must understand that you're going to be crucified for me. Wait, I'm sorry. What? No, take up your cross. Well, that's a great metaphor. No. I'm serious. You're going to be crucified.
Right.
Do you understand the hell you went through?
Oh,
Okay?
Yes.
Are you ready for and I know you know this, but I'm just bringing it up because it's going to be helpful to somebody. Do you understand that that was your crucifixion, that you were put on the cross, you were nailed to the cross, and that it wasn't a punishment, it was refining, but
Right.
that wasn't why God gave it to you. And this is the hardest thing. He gave it to you because he trusted you with the pain. Gigi, I know that you're going to take this pain and it's going to hurt and you're going to be killed and you're going to be dead and you're going to be crucified and you're going to take all this upon yourself. And I'm trusting you
Make me
with it.
cry.
I'm trusting you with it because I'm going to resurrect you. And when I do, the pain you suffered by yourself will heal millions. That's what it means to be crucified with Christ. One crucifixion, one death, one resurrection to heal the world. And God said, now it's your turn. I want to read about it. I want to read about martyrs. I don't want to be one. I want to read about people's
how
pain.
hard it's been. Yeah,
I don't
you
want
don't
to
want to go through it.
God said, then you're in the wrong game.
You're right.
I told you, count the costs before you jump in.
Right.
Because this is real. This is real as it gets. The game that you are entering, the fight you are about to endure, has been around from day one. Nothing new is happening here. You are fighting the evil presence of the dark one who was cast out a long time ago. This is Babylon. This is demonic. You are fighting not flesh and blood. That's just how it manifests.
Correct.
You're fighting the deep,
Demons. You're fighting that.
unseen realm.
And you know why? Because the devil does not want me to shine my light.
Yeah.
The devil wants to make everything so hopeless
Yes.
that you give up. He wants me to give up. But I am so tenacious that I won't.
Yeah.
So he throws more on me. I've been sued 6 times since 2016. That's a whole other. You can't imagine the things that the devil does to make me feel disappointment. But there's something inside of me that's not going to do that. I'm getting up. I just see it as I'm in these ashes and he keeps throwing flames down at me. But there's
Who's
this
throwing
little,
them? The enemy.
the enemy.
Okay.
But there's this little light that still keeps shining. And he's like, dang it, I can't kill this. Get her another
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Dang, I can't kill this woman. No, you can't. Because I'm bought with a price. And I have a purpose. And no, you can't. So you better move out of the way, devil.
So, when your parents visited you for Christmas and you had to go to God and say, you know what?
Yeah,
Come on, not this.
I did.
And he said, I'm sorry, what is it that you're complaining about?
Right.
Because I got eternity already laid out for you.
Right.
So what is it that you're, and when I say you, I mean us.
Right.
This ain't you. We all have our version
Right.
of it.
Right, we do.
But I got to tell you, that is the type of thing that makes you go, God, this is not fair.
No.
And this is what I learned, Gigi. And I learned it as I look at the marriage scenario where God says, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And when you think about that, it's like, wait a minute, that's way too much. No, that's way too much. Because the woman was never told to love her husband,
Honor.
or commanded honor him. But we were told to love her, not just love her, as Christ loved the church. Gee, what did he do for the church? Well, he took all the sin of the world on that. What else did he do? Well, he died for. What else? Well, he resurrected. What else he did? He healed. What else did he did? That no matter what came against him, he tried to rise above that and be holy and sacred in the midst of those who would not honor that. And I said to God, it's not fair. And I always saw that as a refining, like you said, as a difficulty that I will overcome, because that's part of being the Christian.
Right.
And what I didn't get till recently was when I go to him and saying it's not fair, and I always saw it as God saying, oh, I'm sorry, but we'll get through it. That's what I thought it was.
Right.
And now it's not. I realize that's not what it is. I go, God, it's not fair. And what he said to me was, you are absolutely right, son. It's not fair what you're going through right now. It is not fair. Pause. Do it anyways.
Correct.
I'm like going,
Why?
it's not fair. I thought you were about justice. And he said, yeah,
I am.
that's what it means to be Jesus.
Right.
Do it
Anyway.
anyways. It's like, I don't.
Right.
So my point is, you just had to endure that. It wasn't fair.
It's not fair
for
what's
your
happened.
parents, and I don't know enough about them, and I'm not trying to malign them, but clearly you've alluded to the fact that you were sued. They probably, it sounds like in some respects, were trying to take over the business or perhaps push you. I mean, again, I'm not
Well,
trying.
I'm the little girl. I'm the girl.
Yeah.
I was raised Church of Christ, so I'm maybe
that's
a
rough.
little less up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
But
a rough
it
one.
was
That's the one where you have to get baptized there, or you're going to hell.
Well, you've got
In
to
the church?
Oh, you got to get baptized, and you got to double dip.
Yeah.
There better not even be a pinky out.
Yeah, okay.
So, but it was a great foundation.
Yeah.
And I love the foundation of what the Church of Christ is. But women are a little less in my dad's, theory. I don't know if all the Church of Christ feel that way, but it was a little male chauvinist. So I was the boss telling my brother and my mom and dad what to do, and it didn't go well. And then that just started.
I wanted to kind of explore this. We started with this idea of entrepreneurship and you creating this amazing business that made millions and millions of dollars, and then we ended up finding out that was a lot of terrible pain along the way that involved family. I mean, it can't get
lot of bad
worse. It's bad
decisions.
enough to be betrayed by somebody that's a friend or a worker or a
Which I've
partner.
had.
But man, your family. But there's something that keeps coming up, and I just wonder if we should dance around this a little bit.
Okay.
You brought up singing, and yeah, they'd grab my butt, and then you brought up the thing, and then there was sexual harassment. I have a friend of mine, Gretchen Carlson, sued Roger Ailes and ended his career at Fox News because of sexual harassment,
Right.
and what her real fight was NDAs, that when they settle out of court, you can't say, I just want you to know what this guy did to me.
Right.
Because women do go through this all the time,
All the
and we're
time.
sick of it, and nobody allows us to put an end to it, or at least expose it so that it costs you something. And I'm a man, so I do have to be forthright in saying there has to be something about being a woman and female and engaging in the world on a day-to-day basis. But certainly when it comes to business, where there's lots of moving parts
Right.
and people
It's a
involved,
man's world.
usually men.
Correct.
Yeah,
Even
which
in the
I
cupcake
believe.
world.
And I believe
Go
that that's how it was designed. And I don't mean that. I mean, I guess it's easy to cast aside as chauvinist, but I don't mean that way. Clearly, men are designed to be much more entrepreneurial. Not that they're the only ones, but they're more that way. Certainly more involved in the hard aspect of building. We're going to build the buildings. We're going to lay the
Correct,
bricks. That's
right.
just how we're made. So it
Right.
doesn't make us better. It just makes
No.
us. That's our little piece of the puzzle.
That's their role.
And then women can obviously and have
the
done
home
amazing
and-
wonder.
right.
Yes, but that's equally difficult and equally important. But it does bring up the idea of what is our purpose. I mean, is a woman's purpose to be, yes, but I want to get my PhD because I care about mathematics and I want to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like our life is so short. And it's kind of like, really, what are you here for? Is it to see how much money you can make or how many PhDs you can gather or whatever? And that's maybe another episode, frankly. But I do want to talk about somehow about this if we can find a lane, because I think it's important. I don't think it is possible. There was a movie made like this, but I'm just going to lay it out. I
Okay.
believe in being truthful. This is a podcast of truth.
Right.
I'm a follower of the truth. Everything is about being real. I don't think it is possible for a man to be involved in a woman in regards to business, in regards to interplay or interrelationships in any way, without him having sexual desires for them. We are just designed that way.
I agree.
And what I hear from the women, and you've said it just in your pragmatic
Right.
observation of the life you've
Right.
lived, is, God, this gets old. Oh my gosh.
It gets
And
old.
so my thinking is, what is it that men don't understand? As a Christian man,
Right.
clearly there's boundaries that God has created for me.
Correct.
Clearly, my discipline means I desire this, but I don't get this for the
Right.
sake of the greater good.
Good.
And
Correct.
so I'm obviously I understand the
Correct.
moral dynamics.
Right.
That doesn't make my natural feelings disappear.
Right.
And so what I'm curious about for a woman is whether we can fix this or make it suddenly be better because we've been given some insight. I'm not presuming that's going to take place, but maybe it'll give a man a little bit more empathy.
Right.
What is it that you're going through or that you feel like women do endure, especially if they're given a certain amount of prestige in a business, that a man just doesn't
Get.
understand because,
They're
and
not-
maybe we can't.
I don't know if you can, but that's okay too. I was raised with a very strong father, very old school strong father, and two brothers. So I think I speak dude more than most women
Okay.
do. And I was taught to suck it up. And, you know, I fought with my brothers all the time. So I think I have a different perspective. So that's why I've been able to be tough in the men's world. I don't know if I was raised with enough of being cherished. So I didn't cherish myself enough and be grounded in who I am because I'm just one of the guys. I'm one of
Yeah.
the boys. And as I went through life, if I could say to my old self, you need to respect yourself more. And you need to know who you're grounded in, and that's God. And I didn't learn that at a very early age. It took a while. But I am the least feminist person you will probably ever know. The least, I will never say I'm a feminist.
What does a feminist mean to you? What do you mean?
A feminist means that women can do everything.
Okay.
Women are better than men. I do not have that attitude. Biblically, as a woman, a man is the head of the household, and we have to respect that. And I respect a man for being a man. My dad was a fireman. I don't want some chick pulling me out of a burning
macho,
building.
masculine.
I don't
yeah.
care. I want the dude pulling me out of a burning building. Men are better at some things than women are, period. Women will, I know I'll get hate on my Instagram for this. Oh, we can do everything. No, you can't.
Obviously, you can't
And
do the
no,
same
you
thing.
shouldn't.
No.
And I feel like men is the head of the household. Men have a role. Women have a role. Women are the softer part of this world.
Yes.
And we have them, we need that. But we also need a man, in which we are lacking of in this world. Here's the word, wussification.
Yeah.
Boom. I got it in there.
Yeah.
We have these wussies that cannot stand up, and we have emasculated these men to not be men
Yeah.
because these women. Well, then there's no men to even want to take us out on a date or
You mean
open
the
a
men that
door.
were taught that if they open the door for him, that somehow they're degrading you?
Right.
Are you talking about the men that are taught that if they, somehow try to want to provide for you,
Right.
that they're belittling your?
Correct.
So
We
it's
are so
mixed.
messed
It's
up.
mixed messages.
It's mixed messages.
And but
Let me
what's
tell you-
interesting
okay.
about you though, and didn't want to get in the way, but I think that I want you to elaborate, is as you vehemently, passionately said, I'm not a feminist. There are things that men do better. I believe they should be honored. I give them their place in
Right.
that and so forth. As that side of your mouth speaks those things which truly are real and true to you, you're a person of honor that speaks your mind. That same woman did if we want to try to define it in masculine feminine terms, did some very masculine things. And I started a business. I worked my butt off to do things that most people won't do.
Still
I
do.
created this entrepreneurial ability to create wealth and to build all these are very hard, strong, and in no way do you see a disconnect from your femininity
No.
and taking on what could be theoretically saw as masculine traits.
Right.
You even said, no, I kind of have a masculine-ish or at least strong
Well, I have a
toughness.
I have a toughness, but I don't want to be a butchy tough. I want to be, I'm tough because I've been through so much, but I want to still always be vulnerable to people, and I want to be authentic.
Have you ever been married?
I was married
Okay.
when I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
And I was married to someone very abusive, and it started on the honeymoon. And once again, I didn't see, and it is what it is. I didn't love myself enough to see the signs before I married him.
How
I was
long
only
were you married?
10 months.
10 months.
It got
and,
pretty.
And so all of the entrepreneurial world that you ended up in came after that, I'm guessing.
Well,
I mean, were you
no.
doing the business when you were married?
I
The
was.
cleaning?
I was
Okay.
doing the cleaning, and I was singing.
Okay.
And he was
Oh.
very intimidated with the singing, and that.
And your
whole
butt getting
thing.
grabbed.
Yeah, it didn't really
can
work for a
understand.
marriage, which I understand that too. But
I only bring that up because there's a lot of dynamics in your life with men
Right.
and masculinity.
I can work in a men's world.
Yeah,
And I can understand
But
them.
just the fact that you constantly added within the narrative about the abuse or
Right.
the disrespect that men would throw your way along the
Absolutely,
journey.
yes.
It meant to me there's some hardness and some pain and some abuse in that
Right.
in you that you've had to navigate, and but you said it almost as a well that goes with the territory.
It does.
So I'm trying to understand, how does it not go with the territory? Is there a way to ever
No.
circumvent women having to endure that perspective of how men will always see you first, which is probably sexual?
Well, okay, yes. That being said, if you dress in a certain way, and you dress like you are a hooker, let's just say you dress with your stuff hanging out, what are men going to perceive you as? First of all, they're not going to take you serious. Not in the business world. You can look wonderful, you can look professional, and it's of course timing with if it's at a ball or something that's different. But if you're going to go in and you're going to want someone to take you seriously, you have to be that person. And also kind of laying a groundwork with, hey, I had brothers. I know what guys think. I know this.
Yeah.
So I can just relate already. Most women that weren't raised with men can't relate. So they're like, oh, they're intimidated. I'm not intimidated because I've had to be around so many different people. And so I think it's just laying that groundwork of, well, who do you want to perceive yourself as? Well, dress the part,
Yeah.
be the part. Did I do it perfect all the time? No, I didn't. I made lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
Here's a perfect, for instance, of why I think men are so confused right now. I was getting on a plane flight a couple weeks ago, and I had a big bag, and there were people on board, and I said, oh, this thing's a beast, because I want someone to help me up with it. And the guy said, oh, you want me to help you? I said, yes, thank you so much. That is such a gentlemanly thing for you to say. And this one lady said, you could have done that yourself. You don't need the guy. And I looked at her and I said, no, I don't. I could have done it myself, but we all need a helping hand. And I appreciate someone being a gentleman. So if we appreciate someone being a gentleman and we let them be, they usually are. If we expect a man to be a gentleman, he usually rises to the occasion. If we don't expect it and we don't expect it in ourselves, they go wherever you're going to go.
Well, and you also said something earlier about respect and honor. I don't know if women do know this or don't know this, but if you were to ask a man what is his number one need, and everybody thinks sex, because guys really,
Right.
that's up there. It's not. It's
honor.
respect,
Respect.
and honor.
Respect.
And what women
And
don't
admiration.
understand is if you made it a point to tell your husband or soon to be husband, whatever,
Right.
how proud and how much you believe in him, and you have no idea the
Power that is.
that you have
That's right.
for a man who would go through fire for
Right.
you if he believed that you believed in him.
If you didn't demean him, and I think that's the worst thing.
And they do it all the time.
They
What is it
do
with
it all the
women
time.
and demeaning? Why do you do
Yeah,
that?
he would do it that way.
Why do women do that?
You know what? The skill that my mom was the best at, other than being a homemaker like Martha Stewart, she always raised my dad up to be the best he could be, which in parts my dad wasn't at all the time.
In her
In
verbal,
her verbal,
or just
oh,
in the
my
way
husband is such a hero. My husband is
She would
such a
say
general-"
those things.
all the time to
Nice.
everybody. And how I feel, I'm dating, which hopefully going to marry a very strong man who's in the Department of Defense, and he is the manliest dude you could ever, and he's so strong, and he loves that I'm strong, but I respect him, and honey, I'm so proud of you. I could take you anywhere. You're so amazing. And I always honor him, because that is what a woman should do. And if they honored their husbands more or boyfriends, oh my, that's all you need to do. Cook for them. Men love food. If you can cook and you can honor someone, you're in. You're just
and
in.
it makes them feel loved. It's another
Right.
thing about that women don't understand. I hope it doesn't sound gratuitous, but even in the sexual realm,
Right.
I think women sometimes interpret that as sort of just a physical act that men are sort of just wanting to get over with without caring about the
Communication
woman's
and connection.
desires or whatever. But that's not true. It's a way of men feeling that he's loved,
Right.
that he's connected. It's a way for us to get more emotionally connected in a way that's more natural for us, because women can do it without touch. They
Yes.
can do it mentally, heart. You're designed for relationship, so it's very much an organic element of how you can do that even from afar. Men kind of need more of a connection, like, this is us. Oh, this is what it's like
This
to
is
be
a
tight and
touch, yeah,
connection.
touching
This,
and
yes,
cooking
and it's just
acts of
in some
service.
odd way, Gigi. So many marriages could be so much better and so
They
much
could.
beautiful if some simple ideas were done. If a woman would just simply, if both spouses went into it saying, what can I do to give to them what they need, irrespective of if I'm ever going to get it back. If you're going like that, this isn't fair.
Right.
He says, I know,
But
do it anyways.
3 things that a woman can do to make, and I'm not married, so I can't, but I'm hoping to be. Again, I'm ready for that. I found the one that's strong
Good.
enough, that I'm strong enough for. But respect them, praise them, and feed them, and
That's
and
right.
honor them. Just honor.
Okay.
And I think honoring someone is the most important thing you can do. If you look at every person that you come across and you try to honor them for who they are, I think that's the best thing you can do to communicate.
I think so. And honor also is a humbling of yourself. When you honor somebody, you're kind of putting them in a
Right.
higher place, which is the essence of our faith.
Right.
The first will be last, the last will be
Yes.
first.
Right.
I'm telling you, the deeper you go into the discipline of it,
Yes.
the more difficult it is, but also the more balanced you start really understand what this thing means. And in some ways, it's freeing.
It is freeing.
It's freeing. Okay, so this
This is what makes it so
this is
good.
why this is working, and this is why this is what it can be like, and it's hard, but hard is good because it helps develop me into the very thing I was designed to be all along. Well, we're kind of getting to the we've gone longer, but I'm grateful because
Me too.
I love the information,
wonderful.
and perhaps we'll do it again because you got a lot more to share. But I don't want to just leave it hanging, even though we ended up in interpersonal relationships, which I didn't see come. But
That's okay.
all we did, we prayed, God, what do you got for people to
Right,
listen to this thing?
right.
And that's part of it. And your entrepreneurship was approach, and the challenges, and the person you were, and what they can learn from you. So I guess let's kind of
Wrap it up.
sell off into the into the sunset here with two things. One, I guess I would say to you, if you what for those who might be listening to this and thought to myself, I'm going to start a business, or I'm going to go into something. I'm scared, but I want to go. I want to be a singer, whatever that thing is. And you know what that feels like, and I know
Right.
what that feels like.
We
But if
do.
they're brand new, they know what it feels like. They don't know what's coming and where it's
Correct.
going. So what might you say to them to prepare yourself if you're about to be that type of person? That I'm jumping in.
I'm jumping in. I'm doing
You
it.
know, maybe there was something that you didn't anticipate, like when you started your business. Was there something that you
Something?
most learned? Let's just wrap it up like that then. What was the thing that most cold cocked you? Like, I did not see that coming, so it can maybe at least give them a bit of a preparation. Like, here's something I think you need to know, because you can't really know until you're in the middle of it. And there's no complete solution there because everybody's journey is going to be unique.
Right.
But was there one thing maybe that you really learned, like, wow, that is really a foundational lesson that you need to always remember as you go forward into your life?
Well, always remember that you need the right lawyer. I did.
Okay.
I did not have the right lawyer. When I got a land guy doing franchise work,
Okay.
and I didn't. So number one, have the right lawyer. Have the right person
Who
that
specializes.
in what you're. If you're going to open a franchise or you're going to open a business, find the guy who's a business lawyer,
Yeah,
not
right.
the land lawyer.
Yeah.
Or the will lawyer. It's like, so that's number one. Number two, you're always going to have fear, but you have to let go to grow. And most people can't let go because that means they're going to be vulnerable. And it's so hard for people to be vulnerable because that's the rejection thing. So you have to let go to grow. You have to listen to wise advice, but you also have to know your gut instinct, because if I would have listened to wise advice, I wouldn't have had started the cupcake shop, because everyone, you're crazy. Like, what?
Yeah,
what
right.
do you do? But there was this innate thing is like, no, I have to do this. I am driven to do this. So you have to listen to wise counsel,
Yeah.
get wise counsel, but also listen to your gut.
Yeah.
If your gut keeps saying, no, this is the ticket, this is the one thing that's going to make it, do it.
Well, and one of the things that I think people, especially if you're more entrepreneur driven, which could simply mean you're a risk taker. Okay, let's just make it that simple. I think one of the things that you need to remember is most people you will encounter will dissuade you because
Absolutely.
they are
afraid.
cowards.
Yes.
And they will never
They're weak.
have the cojones to jump in and do this thing you're about to do.
Correct.
And they deeply resent
Yes.
that you have the courage to do something that they don't.
Because they're wusses.
They're wussified, and
wussified.
it's destroying them. Well, I want you
Right.
to, I have a special last question that goes
Okay.
only to my subscribers.
Okay.
So they have to subscribe. So it's a
Okay.
way for me to sell
Okay.
this answer.
This is the great.
to my
This is the
people.
greatest
So this
answer,
is my
too.
entrepreneurship. This is my capitalism
This
running
is the
amok.
number one thing that I've always put first, so I'm going to give it to you. So
Okay.
let me know when you're ready.
Okay, so this is so
This is it.
So tell me how to
Two
answer.
things.
Tell me how to ask the question that will be the bonus for them. So how do you want me to ask it so you can give them this piece of
What's
wisdom?
the number one thing? How to move forward?
Okay. In in life in general. So if
right,
you
in
would
life
have
in
said
general.
there's the number.
I'm going to give you two
there's-
tidbits of life.
If
Two nuggets.
As I look at life, Gigi, I feel like there's two important elements to move
Right.
forward that
Right.
very few people know, but I get the sense
I know.
that you know them. And so for those of you who want to subscribe to
Yes, we have to subscribe.
the Militia of the Mind and the Mighty 10,000 on bradstein.com,
Yes.
you're going to get this answer, but the rest of you are just going to squander and float around, your sails coming off, and you're going to capsize. So you better jump on.
You better
But
get
what
it.
is the answer? What is the two things you feel is most crucial to move
life.
to life and to moving forward? Hey guys, I'm interrupting my own interview. If you want the answer that you haven't heard yet, go to bradstein.com and join one of the 3 tiers. It is the Militia of the Mind, it is the Warrior level, or it is the Special Forces. And then you'll get all kinds of special content and bonus answers to make you smarter than you could ever imagine. Go there now, jump on and join the Mighty 10,000. That's right. Well, you know what? To be a Christ follower, folks, is to do a hard thing, and that is to give away your autonomy, your agency that God gives us, to say there's something bigger than me, more important than me. He does love me. He wants me to be successful, whatever that means. It may not look the way I want to. It may not pan out the way I want to. It may not get there as quickly as there. It may never even get there. He never said, I'm going to promise you A, B, and C. What he said is, just take the journey, and this is going to be your story. And thank God we don't know what the next chapter is. That kind of makes it fun.
It does make it fun.
You know,
It's
you don't know where
adventurous.
it's going, and you're still here. You still have much more to say. You still have much more to teach and train and inspire people, only because you had the courage to fail. And folks, there is no failure in God's world.
No.
There's just moving forward, taking the slings and arrows that come with being a trailblazer, because only the trailblazers take the arrows. So the
That's
rest of
right.
you can walk in on your perfectly paved sidewalk that we created while you're on your golf cart, because
Right.
you are babies. And God said, enough of the babies, enough of the milk
need some
drinkers. I
trailblazers.
need some meat
Right.
eaters, especially in this
Now.
season in
Oh, my
America.
gosh.
I need to weed out the
Right.
churchgoers. I'm
Right.
looking for disciples.
Right.
This is the new America. Folks,
is it.
remember this. Remember, well, this is Gigi Butler. All she did is create a $33 million gross a year business known as Gigi's Cupcakes.
Right.
And she's got an amazing story. And not only that, but it's going to keep going. And I guarantee you there's going to be more to this story that we'll talk about down the road when
That'd
you
be
come
great.
back,
I
that
would
you'll
love
get to
that.
say, see what it looks like when you, this isn't theory. This isn't a self-help book. This is real people doing the real hard thing and getting real results that you can't do until you take that leap. Folks, remember, and remember this well, if you're a Christ follower, you're the last truth teller on earth. You're necessary. You're absolutely necessary to help the rest of the people find true north, because they are floundering. If they ever say you're politically incorrect, always say thank you for the compliment. What a wonderful thing I get to be, a truth teller who has the courage to speak truth in the face of those who constantly tell the emperor how beautiful his royal garb is. And you get to be the kid that says, nope, you're naked. And that's what it means to be courageous. And remember, I'm just a comedian. I don't know what I'm doing, but I do know what the truth is. I do know where God lands, and if you follow me, I'll get you there. Oh, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, which is what? Just putting the woke back to sleep.
That's right.
See you next Monday.